Hi and welcome to the Motober series where I attempt to recreate my Inktober projects as motion graphics. Today's prompt is ring and I'm going to be walking you through how I put it together. The original sketch was drawn using a Pentel mechanical pencil and ink with Pigma micron fineliners and a Pink Pig sketchbook. I used to work in an animation studio and a lot of the artists recommended this kit list to me. So if you're new to Inktober and don't know what to buy, I've left some links below. So first of all, everything's named and colour coded. It's good practice to keep organised because if someone else ever opens your project and can't find the thing they're looking for, you're going to end up wasting a lot of their time and they'll eventually end up hating you, which is never a good thing. Within the main composition are a bunch of pre-comps and assets. Pre-comps are essentially groups of assets similar to groups in Photoshop. I've got one for the pencil, phone, table and background with a bunch of shape layers for shadows. Let's have a look at the phone comp first. So the phone's built up of multiple shape layers. It vibrates, the musical note glows, and it has these light rays that run up and down it. The light rays are built up of white shape layers that are wider than the phone, with the transparency lowered. I've added the set matte effect and chosen the phone screen layer. This just means that the light rays won't appear anywhere other than the phone screen. Then I've used keyframes for the position, and I've made a ping pong loop as well. The expression for this is loop out, all one word with a capital O, open parenthesis, quotation mark, ping pong, all one word, quotation mark, close parenthesis. In short, once the final keyframe in the timeline is reached, it reverses until it gets to the start again, and this goes on forever and ever. To create the glass, I've used a white shape layer again. I've just reduced the transparency, I've lowered it quite a lot, and then I've added a Gaussian blur to it as well. There's a lower transparency copy of the musical note, which hovers up and down using the ping pong expression again. And there's a glow effect on the main musical note with a ping pong expression on the glow radius. Looping expressions are ace. If there's a takeaway from this video, it's use looping expressions whenever possible. They are amazing. The rest of the phone is built up of shape layers and some text which I've turned into a 3D object so I can get the orientation right as well. Next were these little lines to emphasise the phone vibrating. They're made up of two strokes and have a turbulent displacement effect. They've also got some keyframes which change the scale. I then copied that pre-composition 4 times, made them 3D layers and have just changed the rotation and placement around the phone on the edges while offsetting them slightly in the timeline. When you pre-compose a layer, it's important to remember that the anchor point defaults to the centre of the screen. So if you're going to change the rotation or position of that pre-comp, it's important to move the anchor point to where you need it to be, usually in the centre of the object that you're trying to rotate. You can hit Y to select the anchor point tool, and then you can drag it to wherever you need it to be. And the pencil comp. It's a bunch of shape layers put together to make a pencil. Wish I had more for you on that, but that's the reality. In the main comp, I've made it 3D, positioned it where it is. Now the table comp is built up of shape layers again. The details are built from one stroke, which I've added a repeater to, as well as the turbulent displacement effect. And I've also used some masks to hide any overspill. You might have noticed that the table is brown here, but not in the final comp. Why is that? It's because I built it before the background and later realised that those colours didn't really work together. So instead of changing each individual shape layer like a loser, I threw the tritone effect on the comp and changed the midtones to something more fitting. And finally, the background. It's made up of 3 parts. The main shapes, which are all rectangles, the shadows, which are all black rectangles with a low transparency, and the dashes. To get the grain for the shadows, I've used the rough and edges effect. I've used an expression, which is time, a little star, 200, to animate the evolution. I've also added the set matte effect and I've linked it to each shape layer so there's no overspill there either. And the dashes are made of line strokes. In the properties on the stroke you can click plus next to dashes. I've changed the cap and join to round and animated it by keyframing the offset. Back in the main comp I threw on a wave warp effect to make it flow. And finally I took the phone comp and put in some extra position keyframes so it moves when it vibrates. I've also pick whipped the shadow layer as well so it follows along. Thanks for watching, hope this has been helpful. If you're taking part in Inktober, post about it in the comments, link us to your projects. I'd love to see what everyone's made this year. And good luck for tomorrow.